Oh, well, that was not a very nice musical fade out there. Sorry, everyone. That just ended very abruptly. Hello, and we are live for the November Patron Hangout here on the Christy Winters channel. One of 3 consistent programs I do these days. And all of them live shows, funnily enough. But this one I'm looking forward to because I don't feel responsible for anything. We put Charge and Tom on this. Entertaining us this time. No, we decided we need to we wanted to make it slightly more structured and focused, and I have actually not done Prager U videos on 2 weekend winters now, 2 weeks in a row. So we've got a lot of fun here with this Prager U video. But before we get started, let's say hi to everybody who's here. So should we say Joe? Want to say hi?
Hello.
Waves the fingers. And Mariana, want to say hi?
Hello.
And Tom.
Hi all.
Hello. And I will put on my camera briefly. Can I do that when I'm screen sharing? No, I can't put on my camera to show myself when I'm screen sharing because I'm sharing my screen.
Because you're not on the screen, yeah.
So yeah, I told you guys, I'm having a hard time functioning tonight. So.
Well, you have a lot going on, and I think you're doing quite well.
Aw, thanks.
So, and you are awesome. You know.
Aw, thank you. I appreciate that. Before we do anything, should we talk?
You told us to say that.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously the $5 in the mail, Tom. You know, to make that obvious. I'll PayPal you immediately after the show. But should we talk about like the weather where we are first, just to keep in the tradition? That's something you have to do, is talk about where the weather is, how it is where we are. So we've got basically Germany and Wisconsin in the house tonight. Should we start with let's start with the Wisconsinites. We'll start with the foreigners. So how are you guys doing there in the Cheeseland?
Well, over here it's sunny and warm. Well, warm for this time of year, about 35, 40 degrees. All the snow that we got in one day is gone now, and it's kind of pretty out.
Oh wow! So it all melted.
Mm-hmm. Up here, well, here.
Mm-hmm. Well,
there's still a little bit left closer to the lake, but it's
for all intents and purposes, it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
And
it's just hanging out in some of the grass now.
Yeah, my dad said deer hunting is starting soon.
Yes.
This weekend?
Isn't this weekend? It's either this weekend or next for gun.
I think it started yesterday because the bar next door has a breakfast every Friday and Saturday, and yesterday the bar was early, like 5:30 was full of deer hunters.
Oh right, yeah, and you can tell by
a lot of weapons and cars here.
Mm-hmm. And guys in blaze orange.
Yes, that's
also a visual giveaway. They do tend to stand out when they put on their blaze orange.
Yeah, I haven't seen any dead deer yet.
By design.
Yeah. Yes, it is. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
So you don't get shot.
It's not like there was a noise in the bush. I shot, and my father-in-law killed over that.
Yeah, that happens, but it's.
Yeah, you don't want to.
Yeah.
No, that's not ideal.
Yeah, I think
depending on your father-in-law. Sorry, sorry, Christy.
That's okay. I think my dad mentioned that he and my brothers and his grandsons were going to be heading out this weekend. That's why I didn't have to call him today. He's like, I'm going to be in my stand with my phone off, so don't even bother. So I wasn't sure if they were just scouting, but
no,
yeah, it sounds like they're actually
probably trying to shoot something.
I was gonna say you'd think, like, I've never actually done hunting myself, but you'd think that the just firing at a noise and slight movement would be bad discipline in general, because don't you want to target your shot at all?
Yeah, I think they try to be a bit stealthy.
Yeah.
I think in deer hunting, at least, you in probably hunting in general, you reckon without buck fever, which is you get so excited about shooting that deer. You think about it all year. It's it's like a week or two in the fall that you get to shoot with a gun, and then you see something that might be a deer and you get all excited, and shit happens.
Yeah. Might end up shooting a rock instead. Well, I mean, I just, now that I don't live in Wisconsin anymore, I don't get to hear songs like Second Week of Deer Camp played on the radio anymore. Yeah. It's the second week of deer camp and all the guys are here. We sit around and shoot the bull but never shoot no deer. The only time we leave the camp is when we go for beer. The second week of deer camp is the greatest time of year. And then it's like this oompa oompa. Goodness. Okay, you guys know this song.
I have definitely heard this a time or two.
Yeah.
I don't know well enough to repeat it like that, but wow.
No, you have a different history. And Tim is here. We see Tim now.
Hey!
He's muted himself.
Hello, everybody.
There you are.
Hi, Tim.
How's it going?
Yeah, we were just talking about the weather before we get into Prager.
There's no snow where I am yet, which I guess maybe is surprising. Because it's Canada.
Yeah. No snow where they are in Wisconsin either.
No. Was not anymore.
Yeah. We got down to -1 degree Celsius, so that was like we dipped below freezing once so far, but I think that was about it.
And the high altitude fog of Franconia is back.
What's that?
So when you have fog on the ground, but it can lift so that you have near the ground no fog and then a layer of fog and then so not clouds but fog.
Oh, okay. Like an Oreo cookie of fog?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
And basically the routine here is in winter often you get up, it's foggy. Fog rises to about, let's say, 100 meters, stays there and falls down at night. And the whole thing from, let's say, mid-November to January.
Okay.
Yeah. So 2 months, fog only, or 3 happens. Nice.
Cool. So that's the weather where we are. I guess we can go ahead and start with the show now. So Tom, you're going to kind of lead this. I'm going to turn my mic a bit, so hopefully I won't sound a bit weird. But I might now. I'll try to lean in. But I'll do a sound check, make sure everybody can hear. I've got my headphones on, so it's hard for me to judge loudness. We did a sound check before the show. We're going to try it one more time. So,
evolution. You learned about it in high school. It goes like this. Life started out with very simple forms, and then gradually, over hundreds of millions of years.
So can everyone hear that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good sound levels? It's not too loud, not too soft?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
good.
Okay. All right. Then I'll just hit play.
Morphed into all the forms we see today.
Stop.
Bacteria to Beethoven.
Stop.
Okay. Stopping.
Stop.
All right. So go back to their premise.
Go back to morph.
Okay. I might make the screen a bit bigger. That way. Yeah.
Simple forms, and then gradually, over hundreds of millions of years, morphed into all the forms we see today.
Yeah. Stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Morph is morph suggests that things change within their lifetime, like Pokemon morphs. That's not what happens. Individuals are one species, and they stay that same thing during their lifetime. And over generations, many generations, there is change, genetic change. So morph is horrible, but they use it all the time because it gives an impression of evolution as being something sort of magical, or it gives the wrong impression, and that's what they want to do.
Which is kind of amusing, because the example you used was Pokemon, and when Pokemon morph, they actually refer to the process as evolution.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I was going to bring that up. I was waiting for someone to say it first.
Yeah. No, I don't know anything about Pokemon. I'm a lot of what I'm doing is going from from a video takedown, one video takedown of it by a guy named Jackson Wheat that we might want to, Christy might want to put in the description at some point, just as a something for people to go back and take a look at when they watch the recording of this video. But morphing is what they do to make things look like
Magic.
other than they are magic. Yeah.
I mean, we had like 4.5 million years where there's no record of any kind of like hard fossil life forms, but there were chemical, there were cells that were becoming, they were, so we had abiogenesis, and then there would be mutations in that initial thing till there was a mutation that was self-replication, and that mutation then spread because it was self-replicating, and then that mutation mutated into a similar life form, and they things branch off over time. And thousands of years. So 4.5 million years before we have a fossil record.
Well, actually, it's
billion.
Billion.
Well, actually, we started. We know for sure life is at least 3.8 billion years old. It might be 4 or a little over 4 billion, but we can't say that. The fossil record actually starts maybe a billion years ago, and they're very odd and single cell and hard to figure out. The actual fossil record starts the good fossil record starts about 600 million years ago.
Right.
And the best kind of fossil record starts about 540 million years ago with the Cambrian.
Yeah.
Although there are multicellular precursors in the Vendian period, which is the one just before the Cambrian. So I'd say 3.5 billion years of life before there was a really good fossil record.
Yeah.
So,
and that's a lot of potential and life things, evolving and mutating and creating variety, and also in going to different environments and adapting to those environments. So not morphing. No, not
morphing.
Didn't just magically
This ain't the Power
legs.
Rangers.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, no. So going on.
Bacteria to Beethoven. Not a straight line, of course, but that's roughly how it went.
No, it's not.
This was the theory proposed by...
It's extremely roughly how it went. But they want to use things like bacteria to Beethoven, or bacteria to biologist, or goo to you via the zoo. These are all ways that little ditties they have to mystify and downplay evolution.
Yeah, make it sound confusing and magical, as opposed to a very natural process once you think about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
One that doesn't need any kind of guidance or hand, and just relies on variation, reproduction, and time.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. You just give it 1 billion years and enough reproduction and enough variation, and you'll just get all kinds of things. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Charles Darwin in 1859.
Oh my gosh, they got a guy from the Discovery Institute? Of course they did.
Oh, yes.
Oh, no.
They couldn't get a real PhD with an actual biological understanding of the world.
They will have one later, but he's also from the Discovery Institute. And when he does intelligent design stuff, he says one thing. When he does papers in actual science, peer-reviewed scientific literature, he says something else. We'll get to that later. But Stephen Meyer is, among other things, his main claim to fame is being a philosopher.
Okay.
Yeah, those are known for their biological knowledge.
Yeah. Well, just ask William Lane Craig.
Yeah.
He's a physicist too, according to himself. But Meyer is he wrote a book called Darwin's Doubt, and that's what all this is taken from, back in 2013. And he is sort of encapsulating a lot of what's in that book in this video. And I think if you as we go through the video, you'll see how disingenuous, how much of maybe fucking liar is more
yeah.
more appropriate for it. But anyway, we're gonna stop again pretty quick.
Okay.
So go ahead.
All right. Also, people in the chat, I see Mithril. Hi. Tufidi also in the chat. Flint was also in the chat earlier. And to those guys, I just want to say hi. And also, if the sound is okay, like let me know if you need me to change the sound for you guys, because it's all right for people in the chat, and I assume it's all right for you guys. So, continuing on.
And with some modification, it's been embraced as unassailable by the scientific community over the last century.
Stop. Some modification. Such bullshit.
Okay.
If Darwin picked up by an evolutionary biology textbook today, especially a intro college one, he would see bits and pieces of what he knew and what he thought it was going to happen. He wouldn't recognize it, because there's, he didn't know about genetics. He didn't know about oh God, now I'm blanking, but he certainly didn't know about genetics, and he had no concept of the intricacies. He had no idea how biological information in the cell was passed on. He had a completely wrong understanding of that. So when Mendelian genetics came in, he wasn't around for when that got popular, but he would be, freshman high school level trying to figure that out now. So it's changed so fucking much that to say that it's essentially the same is insane.
Yeah.
Also, the term unassailable
Yeah.
is definitely misrepresented. Unassailed is probably a better term, because what do you call it? Though it's just a misunderstanding of how science works. The majority of things is you prove by, or you not prove.
You overcome the null hypothesis.
You make it more likely by consistently failing to disprove.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Falsification is what he's going for, and he's missing.
The scientific method, I guess, is all a consistent term if you're looking for something like that.
Well, the modern scientific method. I know Mariana wants to get in here, so I'll let her go first.
When you design a method of an experiment for physics, you have to look at your theory or hypothesis and think about, what will I measure if my theory is true, and what will I measure if it isn't?
Exactly.
And figure out how to measure both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have to know what the world would look like if the theory was the causal factor, and also what it would look like if it wasn't.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and then you have to overcome the idea that there's no effect, to the point where you have to conclude, you have to accept the rejection of the null hypothesis, because the evidence has overcome the evidence of no causal relationship.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right, but in principle, in general, like the fundamentals of Darwin's ideas are still what they are. They haven't, the principles, the mechanisms have changed, but the idea of variation of time, and species sort of, being shaped by either sexual selection or adapting according to their environment, those general principles, not the mechanisms, but the principles remain.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, among others, but that the natural selection and variation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those were his insights. That's why he's remembered. Just like Mendel is remembered for understanding about genetics, and other people are remembered for, identifying DNA and its roles. And you put all those together, and you get the modern understanding of evolutionary theory. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to stop again here really quick, I think you said.
Well, I want to listen to Richard Dawkins, and then he's gonna fuck it up pretty soon after that.
Okay.
Evolutionary biology.
Yeah.
I guess we can just assume. I will say that every time he'll fuck it up again pretty quick after we start.
That'll just be the default. Okay.
Mhm.
As evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins says, if you meet somebody who claims not to believe in evolution, that person is either ignorant, stupid, or insane. But is that right?
Yes.
But yeah. I mean, one, that's really not a good scientific quote for the rigor of the evolutionary theory, withstanding attempts at falsification. That's obviously him being a jerk. So.
Yeah. Which he's pretty good at.
Yeah. But also, as Mariana said, he is right. Like, that doesn't make him wrong.
Yeah. Because if you have never heard of it, so you're ignorant, or you're ignoring it on purpose. So you're an ass.
Willfully ignorant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or you're incapable of understanding because you can't process the information.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Myers has that in here to get his audience to think, Dawkins is an asshole, so he's probably wrong.
Well,
This is propaganda.
Yeah. He said something that makes me, I don't know if it's true now. I feel attacked. Emotional reaction. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, hitting play.
Are there no scientific reasons to doubt the evolutionary account of life's origins?
Stop.
In November?
Go, okay.
We haven't found any.
I told you this is going to take a while. Life's origins have nothing to do with evolution.
Yes, that's abiogenesis.
Exactly. And so what he's doing here is he's conflating evolution and abiogenesis, because in a little bit he's going to say how we'll see. But he's conflating abiogenesis and evolution because that is a creationist tactic to make people understand or not understand evolution and tie it up with, life. How did it even start? Because they want to say God did it.
Right. They blend it all together. Okay.
Right.
Hitting play.
December 2016, I attended a conference in London convened by some of the world's leading evolutionary biologists. The purpose? To address growing doubts about the modern version of Darwin's theory.
Stop.
Okay.
They were not growing doubts. They were growing information. There was so much information in so many different fields that support evolution that they had this conference to try to synthesize it all to make it accessible and useful. And they also were seeing how it affected things in non-biological areas like philosophy and social science, how those sorts of areas were affected by by the evolution. And it's not Darwin's theory. Not the modern version of Darwin's theory. It's evolutionary theory, which is far beyond Darwin. He keeps wanting to tie it back into Darwin.
Yeah.
To make it look like if they can find some way that Darwin was wrong or Darwin was a bad guy or whatever, that therefore the modern theory is wrong. So again, another piece of propaganda.
Can I just do an analogy? If the left did what he's doing, people would say, ooh, Henry Ford was a virulent racist, therefore I'm not using a car anymore. Because the car came from Henry Ford, and therefore it's completely tainted, and I have to reject it. Like,
right.
I guess the mass-produced car, you could say.
Yeah, it would be good for the environment. The point is, like, it was an idea that got passed on and modified by others, and is diversified and become a lot of different things. And it's still used because it's useful. Same thing with the theory of evolution. And if I could also just say about the social sciences, I was rather surprised when I started my master's course, we did a political theory as a one-year course, and we went through all different types of approaches to the study of politics. And one of them is a subset of the study of institutions and institutionalism, like how do institutions come into being, and how do they formally operate, how do they informally operate, what is the context of their political situation that maybe lends themselves, or or if in the case was it imposed on them, whatever. But a part of that is the idea of evolutionary institutionalism, that institutions evolved and adapt over time. And they don't really use a one-to-one from Darwin, but in terms of the idea of pressures and environment, it is a way to look at how, two maybe systems that have both parliamentary democracies may have very different functioning parliamentary democracies.
Yeah, you're talking about comparative politics, I guess.
Sorry, what?
You're talking about it's called comparative politics?
Well, not so much comparison, so much as accounting for variations in changes over time.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Within an institution, and then you can look across institutions to see, what micro changes were or whatever. So yeah, I mean, the theory itself has had wider implications than just in the natural sciences.
Oh, Jesus, we're only a minute in.
It's like being with Kevin doing a Sargon video.
Yeah. I'm sorry. This frustrates me somehow.
It's important.
Yeah.
All right, hitting play.
Let's look at just two scientific reasons to doubt this theory. First, the Cambrian explosion. A weird and wonderful thing happened 530 million years ago. A whole bunch of major groups of animals, what scientists call the phyla, appeared abruptly within a geologically short window of time, about 10 million years.
Stop.
Okay.
No, the Cambrian is a period of about 55 million years.
Oh, okay. Kind of got the number wrong.
The explosion part, or it was in two major sections. There was a first one where a lot of the modern hard body organisms that did form a lot of, but not all, the major phyla from today formed, and that was a period of probably 20 to 25 million years, not this 10 million years. 10 million years, that was probably the heart of it, but it was much longer period. And then there was a period after that of the radiation of these stem groups into different morphologies and within the same phyla. So he's talking about this period of 10 million years as somehow he's going to talk about a big bang later. It's sort of a big bang of all of a sudden out of nowhere came this stuff. The other thing is, I think I mentioned before, there was a period of time before this called the Vendian period of about 60 million years, where there was a gradual evolution, yes, but a gradual increase in complexity and structure of small microscopic individuals, and things like sponges and things that would later become jelly started forming within the Vendian before the Cambrian. So he's just full of shit here.
So,
that's redundant, I know, but I like to say shit.
So it's kind of like all these, seeds were planted, and these little, possibilities, this new life form sort of emerged, and then a while later there was like, blooming flowers. You're like, where did all these flowers come from? They just appeared by magic. You're like, no, you left out a lot of the stuff that happened before the flowers appeared. Yeah, like all kinds of So it just sounds more like a creationist hand waving and smoke and mirrors. Okay, hitting play.
These novel animal forms, exhibiting prototypes of most animal body designs we see today, emerged in the fossil record without evidence of earlier ancestors. Did you catch that?
What?
That's what I was saying before. That there were most of the stuff that became obvious in the Cambrian had precursors. The thing that happened in the Cambrian is that hard body, bones and shells started to develop. Calcified structures that were easier to fossilize started to happen, and also increase in size happened in the Cambrian.
So is it the case that because the creatures at that point had evolved, or were such evolved, the kinds of evolved beings that had these calcified things, that they could leave more things behind, that it's not so much that there was an explosion so much as we can actually count things now?
Yeah, there's a change in the type of fossil that would have been left.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing archaeology and you've got one layer where people use brick, and an earlier paper where people used wood, and then the earliest people used mud huts with some stones, you're going to find a lot of brick. You're going to find less wood, and you're going to find maybe not as many stones, but that doesn't mean necessarily that there were more people. You know, it could be that you're just finding more because there was more to find. And that's why that could also account for the explosion as well.
Yeah.
And especially for things like mollusks or jellyfish or something, finding fossils of those is really, really difficult because the situation of how, because you practically see an imprint in the surrounding stuff and not a true fossil like you see if you see a fossil of a skeleton. And the situations where this can happen are even rarer than for regular fossilization.
Mm-hmm. One thing, just as a matter of Wisconsin pride, being Wisconsin, for the majority of us here who are from that state, there is an excellent site of jellyfish preservation from, I think, the Cambrian, might have been a little bit pre-Cambrian, but certainly Cambrian jellyfish. Very, very fine silt, apparently sort of had an underwater landslide onto these jellyfish and covered them and didn't squish them too badly. And the silt was so fine that the impression is just gorgeous.
Wow.
So Wisconsin had eastern Wisconsin. I don't remember where it's. I'm thinking southeastern Wisconsin. I'll have to
shoot. Yeah, I think I've been to the place that you're talking about. It's between. I want to say it's between Lake Winnebago and Lake Michigan, in that area.
Well, that's the other side. Okay. All right. Okay. That side. I was on the western side of the state for some reason. I'm dumb and I can't tell directions.
No. Southeast.
I was thinking Platteville. You're like Lake Winnebago. Like, no, not Platteville.
No.
All right. Sorry, that's a little Wisconsin geography here. Yeah. All right. So once again, they're talking crap. So I guess we'll get back to the. All right.
A huge number of diverse animals appeared with no discernible antecedents.
Lie.
So where did they come from? This question really bothered Darwin, and he acknowledged that he could.
No,
it didn't. It was a question he had. It did not bother him a lot because he thought that more paleontology would, in the future, would find these forms, and he was right.
Again.
It wasn't something that he stayed up at night worrying about.
Right, got it. Yeah, it was like, hey, there's this problem, empirical problem, but if we give the people who are looking into it empirically enough time, they'll probably come up with an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Give it no satisfactory answer. Nor can scientists today. The renowned biologist Eugene Koonin of the National Center for Biotechnology Information describes the abrupt appearance of the Cambrian animals and other organisms, such as dinosaurs, birds, flowering plants, and mammals, as a pattern of biological Big Bangs.
Stop.
I kind of anticipated that.
Well, I wanted him to get all four of his Big Bangs out there, because what Koonin was talking about was not Big Bang in the as an analogy to the origin of the universe, as something that we, there's a hard point before which we have no idea what happened. We have speculation, but we don't have any idea what happened. In these Big Bangs, he's talking about there were radiations from things that had already existed. There were major radiations in a relatively short period of time into, the Cambrian fossils, into the reptiles, into the mammals, into the birds. But all of those had precursors. All of those histories are well understood today. And Kunin himself is a very strong evolution. I don't like to use it this way, but evolutionist, a very strong supporter of biological evolution. And to use them this way is, I guess I would have to say again, propaganda.
Mm-hmm. Well, they are, so that's fair.
Yeah.
But thanks for breaking down why it's propaganda.
So what caused all these new forms of life to arise? That question leads to a second big doubt, the DNA enigma. In the 1950s, James Watson and Francis Crick made a startling discovery. The DNA molecule stores information as a 4-character digital code. Strings of precisely sequenced chemicals inside the DNA helix store the instructions, the information for building the crucial protein.
Okay, Mariana?
Go a bit back so we can see the DNA
Okay.
again. Yeah. Here's good. T and G, it's right above. If you can go forward 1 frame or something.
Inside.
Yes. T and G don't go together.
They got the basics. They just put various combinations and they got one that doesn't exist in nature.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and if I see correctly, they have C and A or G and A above. Yeah, there's the G and A. It's AT and GC. Round letters, blocky letters. It's easy.
Someone should have told the animator. They didn't tell the animator. Okay.
Yeah.
DNA helix store the instructions, the information for building the crucial proteins that cells need to survive. Unless the chemical letters in the DNA text are sequenced properly, a protein molecule will not form.
Stop.
No.
The thing of it is that and here I'm reaching just a little bit beyond my comfort zone. My understanding is that the amino acids that go into making proteins are not highly specific. That there are several different combinations of the letters, the 4 letters that will make a given amino acid, and the amino acid is going to making the proteins. So there are a number of different ways of forming the basic units of any given protein molecule. So, and that also will come up later in the sense of different letters screwing up the code. It doesn't. The genetic code isn't all that fragile from that point of view. Different combinations will make the same amino acid, which means that changes, to a particular specific letter in a code, or even 2 letters, might not make any difference at all in the final form.
So is this a sort of the form of the just right argument, like they do
Yes.
with, it has to be incredibly perfect and precise, otherwise it'll all go wrong and you'll die.
All right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And it's going to later, fairly soon, it's going to come up as pretty blatantly.
Yeah, like if the Earth was just 4 degrees in this direction, we'd freeze out, or if we were this, we would all die. When the zone of life is actually much wider than.
Yeah, and our the variation in the orbit of the sun through a year, because we have an elliptical orbit, is
that's true. Yeah,
much more.
We actually
About 2 degrees either way.
And another thing is, if a protein is formed in the wrong shape, if the shape isn't too wrong, it'll still work well enough to get you through your reproductive years.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's good enough, not perfect.
Yes, you just have to be not fatal.
Yeah.
Or yes. Okay.
No proteins, no cells. No cells, no living organisms. Bill Gates has said DNA is like a software program. Let's think about that
It
for a second.
isn't.
He said
It
like,
isn't.
not is. He said it's like a software program, not it is a software program.
Yeah, but it still isn't like a software program.
To computer scientists, everything is like a
Yeah,
software
right.
program.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there are so many problems with this. One of the problems is that software is coded using how many 26 letters and then some symbols and
Numbers and some special characters, yeah.
so 30 or 35 or so. Genetics works on 4. So it's the sequence space is a whole lot smaller for that has to be explored. It's a whole lot smaller for DNA than it is for computer code.
yes,
Plus
by
computer
magnitudes.
code, yes, but and also as I mentioned before, computer code. And he's going to say computer code gets fucked up pretty easy by small changes to individual pieces of the thing.
Yeah.
And my understanding is that proteins can change, amino acids and even proteins can change quite a bit, can mutate quite a bit and still have the same function.
Yeah.
So it's not analogous in any rigorous way.
Right. I mean, the theory of evolution actually requires there to be variation.
Yeah.
That's how you get anomalies that might be either maladaptive or very pro for the adaptation for the environment, or provide some sort of other benefit. So yeah, you can't have a system that is perfect every time it replicates, or you wouldn't get anywhere.
Yeah. Oh, and I want to go back. Mithril in the comments mentioned that Rosalind Franklin was the X-ray crystallographer who discovered the double helix pattern with Watson and Crick. So just
yes, noted.
that women were involved in important things too.
Women can science too.
Yes.
Okay.
For computers to run faster and perform more functions, they require new code. Well, the same is true for life. To build new forms of life, the evolutionary process would need to produce new genetic information.
Not new genetic information.
Just different.
It's the same genetic information. It's just organized in a different way. Not new.
Well, he actually defined information, which most of these assholes won't. He defined information as protein coding, genes or whatever. Again, my failure in biology comes through, but protein coding. Protein coding is what he is talking about for information. The protein coding is only a small part of a DNA molecule. Most of it does other things. So
Okay.
Regulation and things like that. So actually, protein coding is not necessarily the be all and end all of evolution here. My understanding,
Good to know. Yeah.
my limited understanding.
Well, that's way better than Sky from, who has a PhD and works at the Discovery Institute. So I'll trust you.
New code. But this raises questions about the creative power of natural selection and mutation. Natural selection is a simple sorting process. Species keep favorable mutations that allow them to survive.
First of all, I want to say 250 in the chat says also genomes have a massive amount of redundant code. Programs that are intelligently designed don't.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And what was the thing that he said here, which was so obviously wrong? I've already forgotten because of
species keep
like everything.
as if they go. So we're having a kid now. You lose that one that gives you the too long hair, but I'll keep the variation for the better eyes. So let's get at it.
Yeah, and here he said positive. Well, there's also neutral
Yes.
mutations,
Right.
and
Yeah.
there are non-fatal negative. For instance, like sickle cell anemia, right?
Yeah.
People who had malformed blood cells were actually better able to resist, was it malaria?
Yes,
Malaria.
malaria.
Right? But it's a terribly painful disease, and it can end with earlier death than if you didn't have it. But again, it's a problem that doesn't necessarily make it impossible for you to reproduce. So it gets replicated because you actually stay alive longer because you don't get malaria, but then you're fucking miserable. So it's not just beneficial mutations that are passed on from generation to generation.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry that very obviously we all know this, but it was important, I
Yeah.
think, to articulate it.
Yeah. Again, evolution of the good enough.
Yes.
This doesn't actually fit in with what we're saying, but as somebody who knows a bunch of actual coders, intelligently designed code actually does have a lot of redundant and junk information in it. In fact, a lot of what's done is to try to reduce that sort of thing, because that sort of thing creates bugs.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
term called junk code too within computer science.
Yeah, I know when we put the code for our open source software. Yeah, when we put the code for our open source software up on GitHub, my computer scientist was like, I need 2 weeks to clean up the code. Like, I just need to go through and read it before I'm not going to put it up there and have it be all like nasty and filled with redundancies and things that I meant to take out later and just found a workaround. So yeah. There's tidying up afterwards. And you can't really do that with genes.
Yeah, I guess.
But
Okay, hitting play.
But eliminate bad mutations that cause their members to die out.
No, this again, not true. Just that's bad good. That's not how it works, but okay.
No one doubts that natural selection is a real process and that it produces minor variations. But many biologists now doubt that it produces major innovations.
Stop.
Yeah. Go ahead. I know it. Go ahead.
It's got nothing to do with producing innovations. He said it himself. It's a selection process. It's a passive selection process. It's not an active changing of anything. So it doesn't produce anything novel at all. That's where the mutation go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know where I read it, but this sort of thinking was described. So, how do you go up a mountain? On one side, you have a sheer cliff. On the other side, not very steep slope. So, if you go up the slope side, it's easy. It takes a while, but you get there. But the sheer cliff with no handholds, you don't get up. And evolution is the slope, and that what these people think is they try to get up the cliff.
Mm-hmm.
I think a part of the problem with evolution as a concept is that human beings have a really bad understanding of time. We don't understand time on the century, on like sort of what 1,000 years actually means. We don't. We just, or let alone 1,000,000 years. We just have no concept of how long that is. I mean, like right now, we get frustrated waiting for our computers to boot up, right? And so our lives are, like reaching sometimes 100 years. That's nothing. And so for our little brains to try to, we just sort of like, I guess for me, I don't even know if I have a good way of stretching time out that much, but certainly people at the Discovery Institute aren't interested in that part of expanding our understanding of why this theory is actually incredibly plausible based on observation. And that's just what it is. It's describing processes that account for what we observe. So anyone else for anyone more for any more? Otherwise I'll hit play. Oh, okay.
In biological form. To see why, think again about software. What happens if you introduce a few random changes into computer code? You'll likely mess it up, right? Though it might still work if you don't make too many changes.
Yeah.
But if you make enough random changes, your program will stop functioning altogether.
Random. There we go.
Yeah.
Random changes, yes. But if you make specific changes that either don't do anything good or bad, or that make slight improvements and you keep those, all of a sudden it's not so tragic.
Also, there's no filtering in his system. There's just variation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
oh yeah, I mean, the filtering let's say a program changed on its own randomly, and the filter was we threw away we threw, like, there was somebody that's like, well, this program's not working, or we'll throw that out. And eventually, if you had enough copies and just kept keeping only the ones that continued to work, you would get major changes over time in the programming code.
I mean, I think it's sort of similarly along the lines of, if a 1,000 or 100 chimps sat in front of 100 typewriters and would write for thousands of years, one of them would produce the works of Shakespeare. If you had a filter that said, look, I'm going to try to optimize this program, and I'm just going to go through and do changes one by one, and every time an optimization works, keep that line.
Well, yeah, and what do you call it? You can actually do the chimp experiment now with, just compilers and artificial intelligence, or not actual artificial intelligence, but
Yeah. So again,
like you can run a randomizer of letters, and with enough time, it would stumble on the works of Shakespeare.
Yeah, well, actually, Richard Dawkins wrote a long time ago a code called the Weasel program. Has anybody heard of that?
Yeah, I remember it from the book because I read it.
Okay, all right. Maybe you remember it better than I do, but my understanding is that if you pick any kind of quote or statement, and that's meaningful, and you completely randomize the letters, if you put it through this program that keeps the things that are close to right, close to matching the final version. And you keep doing that and keeping the hits and getting rid of and redoing the misses within a space of
short period of time.
Well, it's I can't remember. It's like 10 or 15,000 cycles of doing that. You come out with the code.
But compared to doing just purely randomly in a chance. You'd have to do
purely randomly, but you keep the right ones. Another way of it's been talked about is if you have 1 million slot machines with four windows, and how long would it take you to pull those 1 million slot machines until each one hit a jackpot at the same time? That would take probably essentially impossible, right? But you get to decide on one picture to keep, and then you spin it again, and you spin it again, and you spin all the 1 million of them again. How long would it take you to get jackpot on every one? About a minute.
Yeah, and it's the difference between having that filter and just being random. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's like 3 or 4 different ways now. We've redundantly mentioned how you can filter this stuff.
Yeah. Cool.
I had these things in mind. I had this hammer. I bust.
Yeah, you have to say, like, especially like I've rehearsed for a show, I'm going to say something, not with Kevin because he'll usually interrupt me and make a dick joke and then I forget what I was going to say. But yeah, if you've got stuff that you've prepared, we want to hear it. All right, hitting play.
You certainly can't keep doing this and expect some cool new program to pop out. There's a mathematical reason for this. In all codes and languages, there are vastly more ways of arranging characters that will generate gibberish than there are arrangements that will generate meaningful sequences.
Which is why the sexual selection and natural selection part of the theory of evolution are so important.
Yes.
Yes, and genetic drift and genetic at lower levels, that there's actually direct gene transfer between organisms.
Also, there's convergent evolution. Isn't that when nature comes up with the same solutions in different locations, like fingerprints in mammals as well as in marsupials?
And for example, the octopus eyes and the mammal eyes. The octopus eyes are built way more intelligently than our human eyes, because we have the nerve endings and the blood vessels on the on the outward facing side of the retina, and we have a blind spot, and octopuses and squids have it the other way around, so no blind spot.
Right.
It is
Plus
kind of
way cooler pupils.
Yes.
It is kind of funny to wind up a creationist to say things like, well, I guess God thought that octopus sight in the bottom of oceans was far more important than human beings because he must have spent a lot more time, or he messed ours up and got it right on the octopus, one of the two. And also there's that quote from Darwin about God. He said, God is inordinately fond of beetles, because he kept finding so many different types of beetles. And you just see God is this nerdy, like, no, one more beetle. I really like these. I like their horns. I like their little outer bodies. I like their legs. One more beetle. One more beetle.
And they can fly, a lot of them.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's things, the existence of, again, malaria. It's got a protein that makes it difficult for the human body to recognize it as a foreign invader. So God invented that. He invented a stealth biological weapon to keep our numbers down, because he loves us so much.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Just before you go on, that whole discussion that we just had about the different ways of looking, different analogies for dealing with probabilities with big numbers and big probabilities against, that's going to be the whole next section.
Okay.
So I don't feel a lot of need to interrupt much more until we get a little bit further.
Just shout out liar when he says something false. All right, so basically they're going to forget they're going to do all the variation but not do the filtering. Okay, so this is all false premise, so bad reasoning that follows from it.
And this applies to DNA. Remember, natural selection only selects sequences that random mutations generate. Yet experiments have established that DNA sequences...
What is it? Natural selection selects DNA? No, it doesn't. It doesn't do the DNA. It's the what do you call that? The effect of it. The not
morphology.
The genotype.
Well,
yeah. If it keeps the animal, if the animal can live with it, it goes on.
Yeah, it's not natural selection. It's not like it's a person that shows up. Like some of them will continue, some of them will reproduce, and sorry. He's making natural selection sound like a person or a conscious thing that interferes with this stuff,
Yeah.
Capable of making stable proteins are extremely rare and thus really hard to stumble on randomly. How rare? While working at Cambridge University, molecular biologist Douglas Axe showed...
Yep.
Douglas Axe, molecular biologist, the only other person that he, other than Koonin, that he mentions, Axe is the Discovery Institute guy. He runs the Biologic Institute for the Discovery Institute, and he, like I say, he does good, reasonably good work in science when he's not being meathead intelligent designer, and he does this kind of stuff when he wants to make intelligent design God looked like the creative force. Go ahead.
Got it. Okay. Thanks for that, by the way.
That for every DNA sequence that generates a relatively short functional protein, there are 10 to the 77th power non-functional sequences.
So is he saying for this one sequence, if I put the letters together in the other way, I'm calling all of these other versions non-functional?
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't actually know that all of those versions are not functional sequences.
Well, the other sequences would not form that particular protein.
But not necessarily a non-functioning protein.
Exactly, but and this is where it gets back to that whole filtering process.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to do something even more vast pretty quick, and it all goes back to the it's all shot to hell by the filtering things we talked about.
If I were a biology teacher and I didn't care about my job anymore, I would, as my course, have students go through this video and explain why it's wrong as one of their exam things. or a pop quiz.
Yeah.
That would be a very good use of PragerU's content, in my opinion.
Be a fun extra credit thing.
Yeah.
More credit, the more things you find faulty with it.
Yeah. See, okay, so biology teachers out there, go ahead, use that idea. That's great. That's yours. Please spread it around. Prager will be like, we're being taught in schools. Yeah. And all the students are learning how to debunk you. So now go do
That's a
it the
laughing
rest of them.
conspiracy.
Send in your best answers.
And when you have to like non-functional genes, I'm like, oh yeah, just like your brain, right?
Ooh, burn. Okay.
Now consider that there are only 10 to the 65th power atoms in our galaxy. So find
Here's a random statistic that has nothing to do with anything.
Oh, it's going to get even better.
Here's
And
another
even more.
big number that you can't
It's gonna
understand.
Oh yeah. Just wait about 2 seconds.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. All right.
a new DNA sequence capable of building a functional protein is like searching blindfolded for a single marked atom among a trillion Milky Way galaxies.
That's just a lie, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even if it's true, it's irrelevant because of the filtering thing that we talked about.
Oh, and did we mention
and-
plus infinite time?
And the time, right?
Yeah.
Right. He's thinking how to do it would be incredibly difficult, and it would be, but that's not how this works.
Like I play sometimes to relax a slots game, and I've gotten jackpots, like big jackpots, twice in about 9 months. So if you keep playing, eventually you will get you might not run out of money first, but if you don't run out of money and you just keep playing, you will get a jackpot. You will get those combinations, and then all they have to do is successfully reproduce, and then that successful reproduction thrives, and that's all you need. Just that one time. Okay.
Talk about a needle in a haystack. As I show in my book, Darwin's Doubt, even 4 billion years of life's history is not enough time to overcome a search problem this big.
I don't. Okay. Yeah.
What he's saying is that what he said is exactly that there is not enough time in 4 billion years to come up with to have explored even one the origin of one protein sequence, functional protein sequence. The problem is that real scientists who've studied this say that the likelihood is that in the 4 billion years that life has been around, or 3.84 billion years that life has been around, it's almost certain that life has explored every single possible protein combination.
Yeah.
Combination that could lead of any kind, and most of them are non-functional, but there's a filter. They keep the functional ones. So he's wrong. He's absolutely wrong about this, not enough time in 4 billion years to come up with one. It's just bullshit.
Yeah, 250 in the chat says Axe didn't base that number or condition that actually occur in the natural world.
Yes, exactly.
That number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I like especially about things like these is when they go, the probability of this, and there has so many combinations, but they never tell you how they got to these numbers. And so if you don't tell me why you got those numbers, I won't believe them.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And also, again, it's like with self-replication, it's about small changes, and some of them wouldn't. It's not like starting over every single time and hitting the jackpot. It's finding a successful one, and then there's variations on that, and then if there's success in that variation, then it might be built on again. So again, we were saying the same thing over and over to counter his mistake. Okay.
So 2 serious doubts about modern Darwinian theory.
No.
The Cambrian explosion,
No.
the sudden appearance of new animals, which evolutionary theory has
sudden
failed to
appearance.
explain, and the DNA enigma,
Yes.
the implausibility of random mutations producing the information needed to build new forms of animal life.
Nope.
Nope.
Scientists who know about these problems are not ignorant, stupid, or insane. They are just appropriately skeptical.
No, they just know what you left out and are laughing.
Well, I think he's. I think he's talking about appropriately skeptical scientists as intelligent design side. And the thing is that, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Marianne.
You say intelligent design, and I say, yeah, liars.
Yeah.
Come see, come saw. So, pretty much the same thing. Tomato, tomato.
Yeah. Is that him wrapping up, by the way?
This is him wrapping up. I don't.
And I lie my ass off for money.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a bunch of selectively cherry picking, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Propaganda.
Yeah, it's essentially he essentially is at this point kind of a one-trick pony in this sort of presentation. Anyway, he wrote a book called Darwin's Doubt in 2013 that pretty much is the Cambrian explosion and then this numerology of big numbers. And some other stuff around that to support intelligent design. And now he goes on speaking tours talking about this.
I bet he does.
He has a couple of other tricks, but this is his bread and butter. And that's why, And he also, I think maybe even before he wrote the book, he talked, or maybe when he just had written the book, he had an interview with Prager. And Prager, he and Prager sort of commiserated about how they were, about how the evolutionary establishment was intolerant and wouldn't allow this kind of stuff.
That reminds me of the crackpot sessions at the end of the yearly conferences of the Deutsche Physikalische Gesellschaft I went to.
Can you translate that?
It's the German Physics Society, and they have yearly conferences for the various subjections. So I was always at the nuclear physics conferences, and the crackpots on Friday afternoon were very fun.
Give some examples.
Those they came in usually two flavors. The ones who said relativity is completely wrong, everything is Newtonian, and the others who said quantum theory is completely wrong, everything is Newtonian.
Fun.
Yeah.
So basically Newtonians that kind of don't try to figure out ways to be comfortable.
Yeah. Go and don't publish papers. Just go to conferences and ask questions at the end. Brilliant. Yeah. Oh, well, this was a lot of fun. I think we should task someone else with coming up with a PragerU video like Tom did and take us through if somebody wants to. Or make a recommendation on one that we could all do more easily, like a politics one or a history one or something. But yeah, this was fun.
Was this worse than the one that you and I did that one time?
Which one did we do? I've seen a bunch of them now. They're all
damn
it. Oh wait, was this the one about? No, it wasn't about. Was it about food and the food pyramid?
I think it was that one. It was. Oh yeah, it was like higher education and it being a scam, I guess, according to that guy.
Oh right, don't. What is it worth it? Is college worth the money?
Yeah, that one. There you go.
Oh, all right. Yeah. I've seen that one.
About take a year out and get a job and some expenses going, and then you'll live in the real world and realize how shit it is. But then you'll be trapped in a car payment and a mortgage or a lease, and it's gonna be much harder to go to school than it was a year ago. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if we can talk about it in the group. I guess we can nominate some possible titles and have that discussion there. I don't think we'll come to a consensus necessarily here. So
no,
but yeah, this was
necessary.
This was a lot of fun. Anything else? Anybody else wanna? I told you, I'm pretty tired. So
yeah, you're functioning pretty well for being tired and.
Well, I haven't had to talk much. I get to choose when I talk tonight. So that takes a lot of pressure off. Yeah. Okay. So, well, thank you guys for being my friend and paying me to be my friend. Thanks for supporting the channel. I do appreciate it. And yeah, I like this direction. So maybe 2020 we can find. I know it doesn't just have to be PragerU videos. I see Sargon did a video about Kanye West. So if you also see me ridiculous, he was saying that his album Jesus is King is a good moral crusade. That was all I saw because I was gonna it's like I save it and go, no, I should probably watch that with Kevin. But then Kevin wants us to screen them, and I don't want to watch them twice. So it might not even be that good, but it's Sargon, so it'd be easy to dunk on. I'm just saying it doesn't have to be only PU.
Sargon and Kanye, two people I loathe sort of in general.
Yeah, this his last album apparently was not really good, very much pandering to the Christian market. And yeah, and also, Carl was a guy who got invited to MythCon because they think he's an atheist.
It ever seems amazing that Kim Kardashian, she's career kryptonite. I feel look at the guys that she's gone through. Like one was a basketball player and a couple different rappers now. After they either were with her or then she broke up with them, they just their career went downhill in a lot of different ways. It just wasn't the same. It happened to Ray J, it happened to the basketball player I mentioned, and then it's happened to Kanye now. So it's an interesting kind of studying the effect of dating somebody that's on your professional life.
I think happily go ahead, Tom.
Kanye's gonna be president in 2024.
Yeah, he's the next obvious successor in the Trump.
No, he says he's running. He says he's going to run for president in 2024.
That would be. I would love to see that. But yeah, I think he's going to probably change his mind. But I have to say that fortunately, at least being in a non-North American country, Kardashian seems a phenomenon. I know people know about her over here, but I don't think they follow her quite as much happily, or at least I certainly don't. So thanks for that deep Kardashian knowledge there, Tim. we keep you around for the Kim Kardashian scoop.
Oh yeah, I'm like Mr. Data from Star Trek. Whenever I see something, I just absorb it and it stays in my head forever. And then I don't want to know that stuff. I try not to follow that crap, but it's just I just see it. And I can't unforget it. So
while we are here, though, one thing we could maybe discuss is I think that there's only really one, well, unless it depends on when the 31st falls, one weekend in December. So next week I'm leaving for the UK. I'm going to be there till the 18th. So there's Sunday. Okay, well, maybe the 29th. Depends on what people are doing for the holidays. If you're going to travel on the weekend to be with family on the Christmas, for people who are doing Christmas, then maybe it makes more sense to do the 29th of December for next month's Hangout. What do people think about that?
I'll say.
So you want to do November? December's in November.
That's exactly what I said.
Sorry. I understood. I just want to make sure that that's what you said. Okay, great.
No, I'm talking about the 29th of December is the next.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's probably fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it might be easier because again, with people might be taking holiday.
Yeah, so I am, but I should be back on the 28th, so that'll work out good.
Perfect, great. And then we got New Year's the week after. So.
Yeah, and I have no idea what my plans are for Christmas, but it probably will be Christmas.
Okay.
On Christmas. So.
Okay. Well, I am thinking about doing some streams on the 24th, the 25th, or the 26th, or depending on how much energy I have, because I'll be on my own as well. And for people who don't want to aren't doing anything on the 24th, and are tired of listening to holiday music, maybe I'll change mine by then. It won't be holiday music at the start anymore.
If you want to chat or something, I'm come back from my parents on the 25th.
Okay.
They go to my gran, and then they're coming on the 28th to me, and yeah.
Oh, okay, so we can do something earlier in the week then.
Yeah, we could do something. Debunking PragerU or something.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to do some kind of Christmas theme. I wonder if they have one about the birth of Jesus. We could debunk all of the myths around the birth of Jesus.
Oh yes, that would be
Oh,
fun.
no. There's bound to be one on the War on Christmas. There's got to be.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Got to be.
All
There's
right.
one that actually has Prager in it, where he talks about the war on Christmas and how important
Ooh.
Christmas is. Him
Oh,
as a
that'd be
Jew.
fun.
War
One.
on Christmas.
I don't know if that's a PragerU one or if that's something he did separately, but there is a video of Prager talking about Merry Christmas versus Happy Holidays and why Christmas is important.
All right, I'm
General
feeling I'm feeling the vibe of like a War on Christmas December 24th stream where we just
we're
look
hitting
at people
all, like-
complain about the War on Christmas.
We're hitting like
Fox
all the
News.
far right, like crazy cultural conspiracies. you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
The evolution controversy one, the war on Christmas.
Yeah, we'll have to like find, Alex Jones videos and Glenn Beck videos and Sean Hannity videos, and and we can just go through and debunk various War on Christmas videos.
Since there isn't a chat, maybe there is a chat on the. Let me try to find it. There it is. Okay.
I can actually make the chat bigger.
That one probably.
Oh, just say Merry Christmas. Oh, I'm feeling it already. Excellent. Yep, it's pulling it up. Oh, it's on a different channel. Here we go.
Oh, okay.
The
Sorry.
change from wishing fellow Americans Merry Christmas
That's it.
to wishing them happy.
That's it.
Oh yeah.
Can you move it? I want to see the chat
Yeah.
because there are a couple of things I noticed. Tufiti said TMM, the Messianic Manic, did a takedown of the same video. I saw that. It's excellent. It's about 10 minutes. That's good.
All his videos
then,
are like 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, some are. Well, yeah, that's probably an average. And Mithril says that I work on Christmas Eve too. I think it's talking about me because I look like Santi Claus.
Nice.
So it's nice to be recognized in public without the outfit.
Yes. Oh, also 250, when evolution takes a path of least resistance, I think she was saying more that evolution is a slow, gradual rise or change as opposed to a steep jump that you have to do in one leap.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else? Yep, that video. Okay.
Yep.
Kanye is an idiot, not Tom. I agree.
Well, I might be a different idiot. But I'm not as rich as he is, so that obviously there was some idiocy in my past.
Yeah, you got the profitable kind. Right then, so we've got a tentative or basically a set date. We've got some ideas for a Christmas Eve stream for people who are around for that, and I think then that's going to be the show. So again, thank you guys. I'm glad we had the post closing chat, and also thanks to 250 and Mithril in the chat for taking part. And he is but he's also a conservative fundamentalist kind of dude, and they all agree on things like patriarchy and misogyny and all that. So his interest, it makes sense that he would align his interest with the Christians who basically differ on God but not much else. Yeah. All right, so thanks again, you guys. I'm going to just really say goodbye this time. And oh, damn it, now I've got the complicated YouTube thing where I have to hit stop streaming 4 times before the stream stops streaming, and then I have to still say goodbye to you guys. So hold on a second, let me organize myself. Okay, there's the button. I need to stretch the screen out. All right, so until next time, people in the chat have been awesome. My patrons, of course, are awesome, and I've been Christy. So we'll talk to you guys next time, and say goodbye to from everyone in the Hangout. Say goodbye, everyone.
Bye from everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Tom tried to do the bit.
That is a mouthful.
It is. Bye.
Bye.